Boker Tov, good morning, and welcome once again to our Monday morning musings. It's a pleasure to be here, as we always do on our Monday mornings, the opportunity for us to sort of start the week with perspective, reflection, awareness, and really set intentionality as we begin our weeks. This has been 4 months of doing Monday morning musings. It feels like we just started it yesterday, and it was a way to stay connected, and it continues to be that, and obviously something that's rolled out from pandemic as our awareness of what we want to be doing with our community, but how much more so, I think, for a lot of us to be connected. And so today, my friend with me is Josh Schaefer, and I want everyone to meet him and hear about his story and what he's doing these days and what's important in his life. Josh is I called him a congregant emeritus of Temple Shir Shalom, because he grew up at Temple Shir Shalom, and was bar mitzvah there, went on teen mission 2008 with me, and then with Rabbi Daniel. It was Rabbi's first teen mission, and continues that connection as I've watched him in his journey in life, from graduating from University of Michigan to then going to make Aliyah, serving in the IDF, in the Israeli military, paratrooper by name. Though he was the one who taught me that paratroopers you don't really jump out of planes to do that in real battle, because you'd be really a easy target. So it's just a nice title, and working both in the States and back in Israel. And today, really to talk about his journey and his recovery. So Josh, welcome to Monday Morning Musings.
Thank you. It's good to see you. It's crazy that it's been 12 years since TMO 08, or TMO grade, as we used to like to call it then.
That's right. It is. It is. And I love seeing you as an adult and in your life. And I'm glad, pandemic's also giving us a chance to reconnect. You reached out to me early. I think it was around Pesach time, just checking in, seeing how things were, telling me what you were up to as well, and introducing me to something you're really involved in where you live, the AZ House. And so why don't you tell us about that, what AZ House is, and then we'll go into some of your journey.
Okay, so the AZ House is the only free for residents, kosher, Shomer Shabbos, drug rehabilitation center in the world. It's located in Jerusalem. It's pretty much run by addicts for addicts. And in my view, it's probably the best model for combating alcoholism and addiction.
How long have you been at the AZ House?
September will be a year, and about a week ago, I celebrated 14 months sober. So it's been a journey. Thank you.
It's good to hear that too. So my first question is, talking to Josh Schaefer from TM08, and you saying Shomer Shabbos, kosher, weren't words you would throw out there to me. So have you become this observant religious Jew now in this journey?
Definitely not. I'm definitely spiritual, and I have a relationship with God that I find to be healthy and that I enjoy. But, it's an option for people that are religious to come to the house and have a place where they feel comfortable and they can be religious. A lot of the demographics that comes to the house, they're coming from, off the derech, which is like they're kind of coming away from these religious communities, and they get heavily into drugs and alcohol. And then, now they're either becoming more religious again, now that they're starting their sober journey, or they're kind of just testing the waters. And this is a place that's comfortable for everyone. The house the house takes everyone and anyone, as long as you want to get sober and, you work hard. It doesn't proselytize Judaism. It doesn't force anything down your throat. It just wants you to live the best life that you can live and pretty much help others.
I like that model. I think sometimes we forget when we hear kashrut or shomer Shabbat, we don't realize it's not being mandated, but the idea by creating a home with that in mind makes it an open home to anyone who's a Jew, right?
Correct.
And I think sometimes in the progressive Jewish community, we forget that, or we're not aware there's actually high levels of addiction within the traditional community, though unfortunately, the traditional community hasn't always accepted that and been aware of that. I think we were the first synagogue in Metro Detroit over 30 years ago to host AA, NA, Al-Anon, Alateen at Temple, recognizing
Wow.
real need and something that's part of our mission and being an openness, an open home for anyone. What's the mission of AZ that really has helped you? You know, why is this? I mean, you share with me. Look, there's someone who's used for a long time, right? Why did this work?
I How did this work? I mean, it's a very simple model. It's like you learn structure and routine, and you become much more accountable for your actions, and you become responsible to yourself and to others. And you wake up early and you go to bed kind of late, and you have the same structure more or less every day, and you deal with a lot of your issues. But truthfully, the number one thing that I think that is so important is that you learn how to be honest, because honest, grateful, humble, and those are like three, in addition to a lot of factors that help you with your recovery and just feel good about yourself. Like when you're in active addiction or just in a bad mental state and you're constantly lying and being dishonest, like you just create this like cycle of dread and torture, and you're trying to remember this lie, remember that lie, and trying to keep up for it. And it's stressful and it's awful. And when you are honest and a good person, you're not lying all the time. it you feel good because you're not worried about all that stress, and you just feel good being truthful. And you practice gratitude, and you say thank you, and you help all your friends, and you be selfless. And by helping other people and speaking well in relationships, and like in the way that you communicate, you just feel good. And like that is what this whole program is about, more or less. It's about communication and helping other people. And by it's kind of it's a solution a little bit. It's like, by doing this, you will feel good. And then, you learn how to live life without drugs and alcohol. And it's certainly worked for me.
Well, I'm glad. I'm very glad for that. Um, I asked you before we started about Rabbi Nachman of Bratslav, who one of the great rebbes of the Hasidic tradition, and because the reason why I asked, because I think that his teaching is very much in line with addiction recovery, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in my study of him, right, because and really my understanding of AA as well, right? AA recognizing that we're not completely in control. There's a greater power in our world and our lives. And Nachman of Bratslav talks about the idea that addiction is that reality as well. That that addiction destroys our awareness of God and the awe. And so some will say the awe of God, but I think just the awe or the awesomeness in our world. And we sort of deny ourselves of that in the midst of addiction. And so recognizing that this world can be awe inspiring without usage is a really important thing. I mean, is that something that's been talked about there a lot, or?
So an important factor is the idea that like I'm not the center of the universe and I don't control anything. And when I can understand the fact that I don't control everything, it just means that I can control how I react to situations. So that makes things easier when dealing with other people. And there is that idea of like having a power that's greater than myself, which humbles me, because that means that I'm not the center of the universe, and not everything that I say is the most amazing thing that anyone will hear. And I'm not always right, and that's important. That's important for relationships, and it's important for dealing with people in business. It's just important for dealing with everyone in life. And it's funny because a lot of my friends who are religious or were religious, they talk about how there's a lot of similarities, especially in the Talmud, between recovery and whatever's in the Torah, the Talmud. And I think that the AA comes from the Oxford group, which is it had which is kind of like a more of a Christian based organization. It's now defunct, I think. Maybe, I don't know, but those Abrahamic ideals and principles, I think, are intertwined.
Mhm. Um, I posted a link to AZ House on my Facebook page, and also a link to a Wall Street Journal article that came out a few months ago that was really interesting that you made me aware of. And
Right.
because of that, I think two or three names from Temple Shir Shalom families are being read for Kaddish in your home in the Daily Minyan there. Do you want to tell that story? Because I thought it was a really remarkable thing that we hadn't thought of. And I'm always, people turn to tradition in times of loss and sometimes want more than what we do daily at Temple Shir Shalom. So,
Yeah, so it has been a cool thing. It's kind of on the tail end of doing it, since we kind of had been opening up restrictions, and the the synagogues have been opening. But so, when lockdown started going into effect across America and across the world, really, we were one of the few Jewish organizations that had more than 10 men or more at one time in one place. And someone that works as a volunteer with the house suggested that we start reading Kaddish for a bunch of names, and he works for Chabad.org. And he suggested we start doing this, and it became like a really enjoyable thing. It brought us together for 10 minutes a day, and we would do it, and we would be once again getting outside of ourselves and thinking about others and trying to give back in a small and meaningful way. And someone connected us to a reporter at the Wall Street Journal, and we got an article published. It was really cool. And we've been doing it for a few months now, and it's thousands of names. I mean, they're not all read at once, but we cycle through those names a little bit. But it's been cool. It's been like, for me, it's just like I enjoy helping people, and I think that a lot of the people that are residents of the house also enjoy helping people. And to be able to mix Judaism and recovery has been important for us.
So for those who don't realize as well, Josh's life isn't alone in the house, or that's not singularly what he's doing. He actually has a career. He's working. All right, is your job in Jerusalem or Tel Aviv?
It's in Tel Aviv, but since COVID, I've been working remotely.
Gotcha. And your job is in the diamond industry, correct?
Correct. I work for a diamond trading platform. I work on the administrative side and also a little bit of the product team. And I like, part of being in this house and being in this program, like I'm now better prepared and a harder worker, and like my work ethic is harder and stronger than it ever has been, completely due to this program.
And for those who don't know, Israel, of course, is a center of the diamond industry as well, in Tel Aviv. That's why I assumed you'd be working there too.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, what's the tenor like in Israel right now? Obviously, this is being broadcast. Mostly people in Michigan or around here in the United States are watching and engaging with us. So, how does it feel to be, living in Israel today?
I mean, obviously, the whole world is not doing as well as it's not in a good place, to be honest. And I mean, personally, it's really hard to see everything that's happening in America, and then to see a lot of things that are happening in Israel. I mean, it kind of just feels like it's one giant nightmare a little bit. But I mean, I think I was going through like a really heavy news binge, and I was just kind of getting like grossed out with how I was feeling, and I just stopped reading the news. And I started concentrating more on just what was kind of happening with me and my friends and my family, rather than what was happening in the world. But there's definitely a lot of anger in Israel right now, especially towards the government, about the economy's in free fall, not a lot of jobs. I mean, the corona's not, I mean, it's pretty high right now of cases, and it's just it's back and forth, and it's difficult.
It's interesting. Some of my Israeli friends have called me, and we've spoken, and they've sort of castigated me as an American, like, what's going on with your government? What a mess, and how crazy, and blah, blah. And I've thrown it right back as well, because I'm equally concerned than me, in reading and talking to people in Israel, I'm equally concerned, and seeing the protest happening there against the current government and the challenges with that too, as we have here as well. So it is unique in how we've sort of been mirroring each other in some way, and hopefully we'll turn this corner and find some better times for both countries. Does it concern you? I mean, you obviously, as someone who has had active service in the IDF, you have Miluim, reserve responsibilities, correct? Because you're still a young man, under 30.
It's under 40, actually. I think it might be even 45, but I think it's whatever. But I was giving you a shout out for your
young age. Yes, I know. Right.
Thank you. I mean, I got a call from my Miluim officer, and he told me that they're not going to be having any Miluim until the next year because of COVID. But I mean, in terms of like the political landscape, like that is what I signed up for. I mean, I didn't go into the intention of the IDF to like go to war, but I was ready to do it. I mean, that's what I signed up for. I mean, I'm a strong Zionist. I mean, but also just because I'm a strong Zionist doesn't mean that I'm not, I can't not be critical of Israel. Like I believe in the country and I believe in the cause, but I still find faults. And but at the end of the day, when I'm a soldier, I'm going to be a soldier and I'm going to follow orders. That's what I was taught to do, and that's just how I feel about the situation.
Do you see, you had lived 2 years ago, you were living back in the States after your time in the service, and then you went back to Israel. Do you see yourself staying in Israel long term?
Uh, I mean, at the moment, with everything that's going on, I have no plans to move anywhere. But also, I mean, I just like I finally found something. I feel like my whole life I was searching for something. I didn't know what it was, and then it was coming into recovery. It was coming to this house and finding like serenity and solace and happiness and unity. And I'm not really interested at the moment of moving away from that. And I've been part of the develop of like a little bit of the development of the house currently, and I'm helping to further its aims and missions. And I'm trying to stick around just to see it through, because at the end of the day, like I said before, like I want to help as many people as I can struggling with addiction and alcoholism, and that starts, and this has been a really good place to do it. So I want to help to further that mission.
What's unique for you or special for you in the connection of being in Israel surrounded by the Jewish world? I mean, do you think that's part of it, that you found this comfort and the goodness of that?
So, interesting question. So I have always felt much more American than Israeli, and I always think that I'm American first. But you come here and you just feel like it's home. I think it's either the shared religion, but also it's like strong family ideals that are in this country. There's the I mean, it's a different culture. It's much more laid back, and it's like not like very high strung. And the rat race is there, but not as strong as in America. So it's like you don't feel pressure to have the biggest house and the nicest car. It's more about just living a good life, which is pretty much across the board throughout the country.
I like that. I appreciate
Yeah.
that. We're going to wrap it up right now, because I always say
Okay.
Monday Morning Musings is a touch, is 15 minutes, but we have more to talk about as well. So maybe we'll do this again together. But I will make
Sounds good.
a plug for AZ House, because one, it's done good by you and helped you, and I appreciate that. And so on the website, there's a way to donate, because it is a formal nonprofit. 501c3 according to American standards, and so we can give and help that and support that, which is obviously something worthwhile, as it's given you a home, but also really giving you a sense of perspective on what has guided you and will continue to guide you and give you strength, and for others as well. So really important. So we're glad to hear that.
Thank you.
For those who want to keep learning about Israel, of course, 12 o'clock Tuesday is our class with Rabbi Daniel and our friend Benny, our guide. And actually, we're less touring tomorrow, more talking about the political climate and the current situation in Israel today. And Benny's going to have some experts on that being interviewed and discussed for that hour at 12 o'clock. It's a Zoom class, so let us know if you want to be a part of that. And then services, of course, coming around the corner on Shabbat at 6:30. This week. So thank you for being a part of Monday Morning Musings. Josh, really appreciate it. And I'm sorry for the delay and not being exactly live, but I'm glad you logged in and got to enjoy it with us. Take care, everyone. Have a good week.
Thank you for having me.